Okay, we are recording. Hello, welcome to the Chris and Veronica show. If you are hearing us, you're hearing us on podcast stuff. If you are seeing us, you're probably on YouTube or some other like video place. So, hello, welcome. My name is Chris, and this is,
Hi, my name's Veronica.
and I'm just in the process of setting an alarm for like 15 minutes or so to make sure that we stay on track for our like 20-minute ish episode. What's our topic today, Veronica? What are we talking about?
Uh, you know what? Network and building relationships and branding.
Ooh, those sound like fun. Kind of all related to each other, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So networking and relationship building. I always think about networking in these like weird ways of like, oh, I've got to walk into a room and feel very uncomfortable talking to people. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel uncomfortable when I'm talking to people. How about you?
No, you.
Shocker. I know.
I sometimes feel the same way. I have to give myself a little pep talk. That's okay, Veronica. You can do this. I love walking into a room and thinking, ooh, who can I connect? What projects are out there that need somebody? And then I love my little go-to slogan. It's once I introduce somebody to someone else and I connect them, I'm like, okay, happy networking.
I love that. Yeah. The idea of like icebreakers, right? Like, who am I talking to and why? And like, what is this person and all of that? One of the things I think about when I come into a room is who am I talking to, right? Who's the first person that I'm talking to and who should they introduce me to? So if I'm talking to them, I'm going to say something like, this has been a great conversation. Who else in the room do you think would benefit from me talking to them or them talking to me? And I can also do the same for you if I know anybody that's in the room, right?
That's amazing that you actually think about. I don't think I've ever thought about that. I think for me, when I walk into a room and I'm purposely there for networking, I think, okay, what do we need? What projects are out there? Who can I talk to that's going to be beneficial? And then once I'm networking, I'm like, oh, you know what? I just spoke to this person. I think you should meet them, or I think you need to connect. So I never really thought about being proactive that way. For me, it's, hey, if it happens, great. But this is my mission. This is my goal. This is what we're going to do.
It's part of the reason why I love like chambers of commerce, right? You can go into a chamber of commerce, they have ambassadors, their relationship with you is to say like, hey, hi, hello, welcome. Like, what can I do to be able to support your business or tell me more about your business, that kind of thing. And most of the times the ambassadors know everybody. So they're going to know a good portion of people that are in the room to be able to actually connect you with other people. So on that like question front of things, like, and these are like some random icebreakers that I typically use for people, but I'm like, tell me about your grandparents. Right? I feel like that's always a fun one because if you think about your like grandparents, it gives you a history of like where that person came from, the way that they experienced the world, and like the things that you can do to be able to engage with them. Like, where have they been and where are they now?
That is so interesting. I think I would feel uncomfortable with that question simply because I lost my grandmother at a really, really young age. And there are pieces of her that I remember, just moments. It's not a total experience or a journey. It's just pieces of that I remember.
Isn't that great though? Because then you get to know somebody based on what their memories are, what their experiences are, and who they are as a person versus what they do, right? If you can connect with somebody and connect with who they are rather than what they do, chances are you're going to be able to have a longer term relationship with that person that is not transactional in nature. So I'm able to have that conversation with people and be like, tell me about your grandparents. And like, I asked this one person, this is a random story. I asked this one person and we were at like a fundraiser, like type event or whatever. And he was a +1 to somebody that I know. We both know this person as well. Anyway, he was a +1.
And now I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. And they had just started dating maybe like 3 months ago. And so like he's bringing them to this fundraiser with like all these people in it. Right. And
Wow.
imagine me being
That's very
there,
bold.
right. I am 6'6". This person is probably like 5'5" or whatever. And they get introduced like, hey, this is Chris and this is so-and-so. I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like, how did you know each other? And they're like, oh, we're dating. And I was like, oh, that's super sweet. Like, tell me about your grandparents. And he looked at me and he was like, they're both dead. And I was like, I was like, all right, yeah, mine are too. I love that for you, right? Like, I don't know where to go from here, but That's one time where like you think about things that backfire, right? Like when you're trying to do an icebreaker with somebody and they definitely do not want to be open with you, or they like
I
take
don't know. I
something.
was abandoned at an orphanage.
Right. Right. Or they're like, this is a trauma response in some way because I don't want to answer your question. Or like another time that I asked somebody, they were like, my grandparents, they were, not so much good people. Right. And that's like, that's great because I get to know that you as a person have come to a point that your relationship with your family, your relationship with your grandparents, whatever that looks like, you've learned how to be able to live on your own. That's what I'm hearing from that
Oh,
conversation.
okay.
Because if I'm going to be, having a networking conversation with you or just be out in public and be able to like want to say something to you because we're at an event or something, right? I can say like, it sounds like you've come really far from where your grandparents were. I think that is amazing for you. And I really appreciate you like saying that to me so I can learn more about who you are as a person, right? And that idea of being able to connect with people and to be able to network with them in that sense, I think like that's why I go into community and I go into community spaces, right? It's not necessarily because I'm there for business. It's not because I'm there for other things. It's because like you as a person, you are standing in front of me right now. You are sitting with me right now. What can I do to be able to get to know you, right? And that's where that icebreaker kind of like conversation comes
That's
in.
interesting. So hopefully we've taken notes and saying, hey, you can use this. However, be prepared if it backfires.
Yeah.
Really quick, I do not see you on here.
Yeah, so I have a blinking light. So if you're
Just want
listening
to
to
make sure.
this on podcast, so if you're listening to this on just audio only, we do have some videos that are in the room. This is season 1, episode 1. We had a little like test
You're
earlier.
lucky.
Yeah, so we're very excited to be doing season 1, episode 1, and so we have some video stuff and then some audio things. So I have a red blinking light on my side that shows that
Yes,
the camera
you
is still
do.
on and
Yes,
running.
you
So-
do.
And
Yes, you do.
I think
I
your
have
camera is there too.
Yes, I have a red just light that's on.
Red light that's on.
Yes.
That means everything's working the way that it
Yes,
should. And we
yeah.
have a recording thing on the audio, so let's hope it's all coming through the way that
Just
it
wanted
should.
to make sure, this is our first one, so I want to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah. And then, so networking and like that kind of thing and relationship building. I think about also the idea of like, once you're like having a conversation with somebody, how do you decide if you're going to follow up with them, right? How do you decide if you're going to like continue a conversation with them later on, or you want to be able to do something with them, or they want to be able to do something with you? Like, how do you work with that follow up? Like, what kinds of things do you typically do in that space?
That is very interesting because, again, I can already see how our personalities are very different. I am very much, hey, check the box. We got this. Boom. If I connect with someone on a project that I'm working on, perfect. There, I'm going to follow up with someone. However, there have been times that 3 months later, I have to go, oh, wait a minute. I remember meeting them here. Let me go back and get their card because now I have something that we can work on together. Or, hey, by the way, I was talking to so-and-so and I remembered that you do this. So I would really love to make an introduction with you. How do you like that? I have a question for you. How do you answer someone that says, oh, Chris, I'd rather you not connect me with this person. I already know them or I've heard of them. How do you deal with that?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I think about for networking and the follow-up side of things, I say I will do an hour for anybody about anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm sitting down with you for an hour versus just having a casual conversation with you, chances are I'm going to be able to learn more about you. And so because somebody else might have that feeling that maybe you shouldn't do that thing with that person, I'm still going to hear it from the horse's mouth and decide for myself whether or not I'm going to do something with that person, whether it's business related, whether it's introductions, whether it's just like hanging out and having a coffee or like whatever that may look like. I'm going to go directly to the horse's mouth, right? If somebody has a preconceived notion about what somebody is or who they do, like what all that is, right? I will literally just be like, I will sit down with them for an hour and be able to usually suss out within that time period whether or not it's going to be a good fit to be able to move forward in a conversation. So as much as somebody says like, don't do that thing, I'll still be like, well, I think I'm probably going to do it. And if I step in the muck, I'm fine with that because I would rather have that extra hour with that person. Right?
And get to hear their side of the story because it goes back to preconceived notions, right? It's I'm not going to talk to you, do business with you because you hurt my best friend.
Right. Yes, exactly. And
Yes.
there's some cases where somebody needs help, right? And
Mm.
because they need help, they've been in a trauma response of some kind. If they're in a trauma
Yes.
response, right, they're going to be hurting people all around them. And that
Mm-hmm.
happens, right? If I'm able to
Yes.
see the fact that they're in a trauma response and I'm able to support them in some way through that, then I will help that person, even if it manages to ruin relationships around me, because it's more important to me to be able to support that person as they're showing up, right? Even if they may have hurt other people. Now, we're talking about the opposite side of that, where if somebody is doing absolutely wrong in the world, right? And I know that
Yes.
they're doing absolutely wrong in the
Mm-hmm.
world, then chances are I'm going to have either a conversation with them or an ability to be able to stop them in some way from continuing to do that bad thing, right? For trauma response people, it's about lifting them out of that trauma response so that they can be able to just operate in the world without this heavy lift thing on top of them, this like heavy push down, right? And for people that are doing like wrong in the world, it's a matter of potentially keeping them from doing business in certain ways because they are harming community in some way, right? So from that standpoint, I'll usually take an hour to be able to sit with anybody, to be able to talk about anything, see where they're coming from, see if they're in it for community, if they're in it for themselves, and then be able to go from there.
I've had two different stories. One, it was a success story. The other one, it was like, wow, they just burned their bridges. They brought the gasoline can, the matches. They didn't care, But also, I think supplying the tools, right? Let me teach you how to fish. Lo- Don't let me just feed you. Let me teach you how to fish and give you the tools, because if I'm just going to be helping you and supporting you, I need to make sure that you're doing the work as well, right? Because how are you going to learn what your triggers are? How are you going to learn how to be better in business, right? So every networking opportunity, or if I hear free classes, free workshops, hey, you should attend this. Hey, you should do this. There was one individual that they were always busy for all these things that I knew would help her. And finally, I had to say, hey, listen, I know you're doing great when we do this event together. However, you say you want to be better. Sign up for these things. And it wasn't until I brought it to her attention, like, oh, you know what? You're right. So a year
Yeah.
later, they came back and said, thank you.
Yeah, the idea of like doing the work, right? And there's so many free opportunities out there to be able to learn, right? Whether it's online, whether it's in person, workshops, people giving away information, like be there for it, like do that thing, right? A lot of times for people that I'll start to engage with, especially on the business advising side, right? I'll be like, go through those things first, because by the time you get to me, I need you running it nearly a sprint in order to get you to that point, right?
It's a
And
jog.
it's a jog.
It's a jog. He's lying to you. It's not a sprint. It's a jog. But go ahead, Chris.
And really wanting to put in the time and the effort to be able to make an impact.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you're like wishy-washy and on the fence, I can take you to that next level, right? That's part of what I do as the things
Hmm.
that I do through business advising. But like I always say, like, I need you to be actively involved with this. And here's another example of
Hmm.
that free versus paid, right? And a lot of times I'd be like, and this was even like years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, $50, let's sit down, let's do something, right? You have a little bit of skin in the game and let's do this thing. Everybody that I do that for ends up falling off, right? There's a certain dollar amount that people have to pay in order to be actively invested in the thing that we're going to be doing. And so I try to make sure that they stay engaged like at that level, because them being engaged there means they also have the belief in themselves to be able to get to that next level. And that belief is a lot of times what is going to be driving them to be able to get there. So if I'm working with them and I know that I can push them to this level, I'm going to take it like 10x more, right? On what
Yes.
they're willing to provide. So
Totally. Um,
and that's a total, like, this is all tangents from, networking and relationship building, but that's really like
but it is part of
relationship
it.
building and wanting to be able to put in the work.
But it is part of relationship building, because if I hire you for an hour, I'm trying to build a relationship with my company and your company. But if I'm not there and you're giving me all these, it doesn't matter if I'm paying you $150 an hour. If you don't see me putting in the work, then guess what? You're not going to want to work with me. But it is part of the relationship building,
Mhm.
because then people are going to come to you. Oh, hey, Veronica is going to do this. Oh, well, yeah, good luck, because your face speaks a lot.
Well, my face always says a lot, that's for sure. Yeah. And that's where, like, if I'm charging somebody $250 or I'm charging them $250,000, right? There's a value that's there to them to be able to get to the next level, right? And that's my responsibility, is to say, like, This is how you can get there. These are the things that you can do where the rubber meets the road, right? I always say, like, I'm not one of those like happy-go-lucky, like, let's get this thing done. Like, I'm like, no, really, this is how it works. And this is how much work it takes. And either my team can do it or your team can do it, but you need to add a capacity. So let's get you there, right? Like, so
Yes.
that kind of thing. But on that, it's also relationship building where I'm knowing over a period of time from that original meeting, that original hour that I'm sitting down with you essentially for free, there is an opportunity cost to you, to me for that hour. And then there's also that knowledge, right? That
Mm-hmm.
ability for you to be able to expand on that time that we have. So if in that 1 hour, I can see you have the opportunity to be able to grow, I'll put you there and be like, these are the things that you need to do. If I don't see it yet, I'll be like, you're not there. These are the things that you need to do in order for us to be able to work together. Come back to me when you've got these things done. Until then, don't book anything on my calendar, right?
Really? So even
Absolutely.
if somebody wants to throw $2,000 at you and they're not doing the work, you would walk away from 2,000?
I would. I do all the time. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no reason for me to work with somebody who isn't willing to do the work or willing to have others do the work for them and have them understand the work that is happening. That's a requirement, right? And that's that relationship building. You've got to know that we've got a good relationship and that you're willing to do that work.
Yes, it's not just because we're BFFs and we're braiding each other's hair. It's putting in the work. And that's the difference between business and friendship,
Hmm.
which they don't correlate. And I've had to learn that.
Yeah. I mean, even with me sometimes, I guess. But
That's not
it's because
saying a
I'm
lot,
crazy and I'm okay with it. So leveraging online and in-person networking as well. So let's get back on that track as my alarm just went off, which means like, whoop, whoop, it's almost time to shut off everything and go into our next episode. So with this episode, let's like finish it out on maybe leveraging online and in-person networking just for maximum like
Okay.
benefit for
Yes.
everybody. What does that look like for you? Like, are you an in-person like person? Are you an online person?
I
Like,
am an in person. I totally tank online. Yes, I'm more of a you have to see me and feel me in real life.
I mean, we all see and feel you in real life, Veronica. That's why I'm here sitting with you,
I know,
obviously.
I know, but no, I'm horrible online. My presence doesn't come across. My energy, and I realize, oh, it's an energy thing, right? I'm very empathic, and when I'm in the room, I'm in the room. But no, everything is in person. I try never to do anything online, unless, of course, it's virtual. Then I think people's personalities shift too when you know it's nothing but virtual.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if the camera just did something.
I know it did. It said video sound quality.
Yeah. It's like it's yelling at me about something.
Yes, it is.
So with that, let me see if I can get it recording again. I don't know if I can, but no,
This
I
is
can't.
it's on
Okay.
photo.
Time is
lapse
time. We're
video.
editing. We're all dying. It's the
Okay.
whole thing. The life is we're it's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world. Yeah. So for me, in-person versus virtual, I think that I do a lot more in-person things versus virtual. A lot of times I'll even like fly places to be able to see people, drive places to be able to see people, even if it's long distances, because I think that that in-person connect is very valuable, especially in the beginning. If we're
Yes.
going into the execution of things, that's great. Let's talk about execution of things and do that virtually because then we're involving more people and more teams. And it's
Yes.
better to be able to have flexibility in your schedule in that way than it is to be like, hey, can we get 20 people together for an in-person meeting over at this thing? Like at this point, now you're talking about a summit. I need 5 people on your team. I need them for this amount of time. Let's do this virtually and like really fill it out. So I think that in that sense, in the beginning for networking and getting to know people, for me, it's in person, and then I can
I agree.
transfer to online, but it isn't typically the two between. There was a point where I was doing, this is another long story. We'll see how it goes. We only have a little bit of time left. And I was doing online career fairs, right? And getting people together for online career fairs. I
Really?
know, random fact.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, I had an entire brand that was built around connecting people throughout the U.S. with jobs and like companies that value their whole selves, not just their skills and knowledge, but their actual like full identity. And so I
Mhm.
had an entire brand that was built around that. It was purchased by some other people about some other things, and that was a while ago. But anyway, I did some online virtual things and online and virtual career fairs. And that was great to be able to do and to experience and kind of be part of that like realm of online stuff. And it was great because I could do it anywhere in the US from anywhere that I was located at. And I found that to be great for flexibility. At the same point, I found more benefit from the in-person ones that I did, where it was in-person career fairs and actually tabling and people talking to people. And the in-person events were always much larger than the virtual events as well.
Yes.
So yeah, huge fan of in-person versus virtual if I
So
can.
you know what Veronica heard was, "Hey Veronica, our next project is an online virtual career fair."
Oh my, I don't know if I'm going back to that business, but we'll see. I mean, potentially we can probably put something together. So yeah, networking and relationship building. Last thoughts. What do you think?
I think that go with your personality. Go with what you feel comfortable with. Some people might be introverts and online might be your thing then.
Totally. And for me, I'm saying, I guess my last thoughts are like, yeah, do what works for you. If it's in person, that's great. If you want to be able to have some of the icebreakers that we were talking about here, like deploy those out when you're, talking with people and get used to being that like extroverted person. But then, yeah, for the introverts in the world, like please online all day long, like let's do it. Right. So whatever works best for you.
Yes.
Anyway, there you go. Networking and relationships. Anything else we should add? What do you think?
That's nothing else other than, hey, Chris and Veronica, we're here for you. You have questions, definitely ask us. We are all about being part of your village.
Absolutely. So yeah, chrisandveronica.com, Chris and Veronica show on the socials and YouTubes and all those places. So feel free to check us out there. And yeah, again, this is the Chris and Veronica show. I am Chris. This is
Veronica.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.